Good evening, and welcome to Lawyers on the Line. I'm Bob Falsani, a founding partner of the Falsani, Balmer, Peterson, Quinn, and Beyer law firm, and this evening's moderator. Tonight's topic is Social Security. Making a claim for Social Security benefits is not always as easy as it sounds, especially if you get denied. Knowing about eligibility requirements, medical evidence, appeal procedures, and vocational evaluations can help to take your questions about this topic. I'm pleased to welcome this evening's panelists, Sean Quinn of the Falsani Balmer firm, and Stephanie Balmer, also of the Falsani Balmer firm. Sean and Stephanie are ready to answer your questions, so please call at 218-788-2844. If that's long distance for you, call our toll-free line at 1-877-307-8762. So let's start out a little bit here before we start getting questions, Sean. What is the application process like for Social Security disability?
Well, the process is time-consuming, but it's not particularly difficult in the sense of what you need to know. The Social Security application, you can do it online or you can do it in person at the Social Security office. Requires you to give them a bunch of information about yourself. Your name, your address, whether you're married, whether you have children under the age of 18, your work history going back 15 years. So if you were to do one today, they'd want to know back to 1999. They want to know what your medical problems are. A list of all of your medical problems, a bad back, diabetes, things like that. Your medications that you take, and also all the places you've been to doctors for your medical problems.
So is it sort of a long bureaucratic form then?
It's a very long form. Online, it takes about 2 hours to complete.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's very time consuming and frustrating, but all of the things I just said that you need to answer are things that you are going to know if you're applying.
Is it easier in person, Steph?
I think that depends if you're computer savvy or not.
That's why I asked you. You're a youthful
right,
person, so.
I am, compared to others. The online application process, if you have all of the information at hand and you're relatively okay at filling out those online forms, I would say that would be quicker than doing it in person. On the other hand, if you have any hearing impediments, speech issues, things like that, I would say go in person with a loved one because you'll want the individual processing your application to note some of those issues.
How are the people at the Social Security Administration to deal with?
Oh, at the local office, they're wonderful. Very helpful, very knowledgeable, almost always willing to help you out.
You'll probably get flowers tomorrow then from them.
I'm expecting it.
Yeah. Okay, what about you've applied now? How long does it take to get the first level decision?
In Minnesota, the typical wait is somewhere between 3 and 6 months. In Wisconsin, it's longer. I don't know why, but the people that are processing the claims in Minnesota are just a little bit more efficient, I suppose.
So this first level, what percentage ballpark get awarded? Any idea, you two?
I know exactly. I got my prop. You didn't even know I had this. Allowed claims on the initial application in 2013, 33%.
So 1 out of 3.
1 out of 3. So the old wives' tale of everyone gets denied the first time is simply not true. 1 out of 3 get granted.
So if you don't hire a lawyer right away or don't hire a representative right away, you apply, 1/3 of the people win.
Just like that.
What happens if you lose, though?
If you lose, as long as you have a decent case or any case at all, you're going to want to appeal. And Sean and I both handle Social Security claims, and we vary as far as whether or not we take on an appeal at that stage or not, simply because that's still a stage at which there's not a ton we can do as far as persuading the Social Security office to change their mind about the case.
So where does this first appeal go?
Well, again, you can do that online. Okay. Or you can do it in writing. I don't know that they take appeals over the phone. I don't think they do.
No, and it's called a reconsideration appeal.
Okay, and who does it go to?
The same people who made the first decision.
So it's pretty hard to change their mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you had new evidence, maybe?
Maybe.
new evidence, and it's a different human being. So there's a person in the St. Paul office who reviews your file. They denied you. It's not going to be that same person who's going to look at your claim the second time. It'll be someone else in that office.
Okay, you lose administratively twice. Is there much of a win ratio at that second level?
No, no. In fact, the statistics there, 11%.
Okay,
So real low chance of winning. If you get denied the first time, you're probably going to get denied the second time.
So we got, what is it, 33 and 11, that's 44%. So 56% are losers so far?
Well, your math is wrong, but
Jeez. Well, I'm a pretty bright lawyer, that's for sure.
Yes.
you're a good lawyer.
Yes.
You're bad at math.
All right. So anyway, trying to do it quickly on,
I understand.
It's TV too, you know.
I get it.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, so the decision process here. You've lost twice. You go to a lawyer now?
I would.
Okay.
You-
Now, are there other options other than a lawyer?
Yes. To be a representative and handle someone's Social Security case for them, you don't need to be a lawyer. You just need to be registered as a representative with the Social Security Administration.
Do they charge the same as the lawyer would?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So in my opinion, I'm biased, of course, but my opinion, why would you hire someone who isn't a lawyer when you can hire a lawyer for the same amount of money, at the same
Okay.
cost? And,
All right.
and one other thing I wanted to add, because I think this is the most important thing anyone can take from this program if they're listening. If you get denied, you have 60 days to appeal. And if you get denied the second time, you have 60 days to do that appeal. So many people call my office, I would say at least once a week, and they're denied somewhere in the 55 to 70 day range. And I don't know why people wait that long. Don't wait that long. Call right away, please.
Okay, so now it's time to head for a hearing, okay? Now, just so people know, what are you going to get if you win?
Well, that depends. When you apply, one of the questions the Social Security Administration will ask of you is, when did you first become disabled or unable to work, what's called substantial gainful employment? And so there will be a date floating around in the system that's going to be used to calculate the onset of disability. So if you end up getting granted disability at some point, ideally the decision will be favorable and say, yes, since this date you've been disabled, and so you're hoping for an amount of back pay to represent the time that's passed since that onset date and the date on which you're found to be disabled. Now, that being said, there's a 5-month window or I guess lapse between the onset date, whether it's the one that you told the Social Security Administration, or sometimes a judge or someone else in the administration will ask you to change it. 5 months from the onset date will not be paid. So regardless of when your back pay begins, it'll be the onset date less 5 months. And then
If you have
ideally,
a stroke in July, you're not getting paid until,
5 months after.
all right?
Correct.
I won't say the month because I'll get it wrong.
You
That's
probably
also
will.
math.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Okay.
And an important distinction, Stephanie's talking about disability insurance benefits,
Yes.
regular Social Security. For SSI, there is no waiting period. SSI is a welfare program, so there's no waiting period there. But there can be no SSI benefits until you actually apply. So if you become disabled and you waited 3 months to apply for SSI, you're not going to get those 3 months.
Okay.
in
I want to
back.
go back to disability benefits. Does everybody get the same amount of money?
Well, again, it depends on the program. SSI is a welfare program. The current rate, I believe, is $721 a month, and that's what everyone in the United States gets.
So you've never worked, you're disabled, you still get it?
You get $721 if you're disabled and you've never worked and you qualify for welfare. You have to have qualified for welfare.
Or
You have-
if you worked but you didn't work enough or it was too long ago.
Right. So, and then the 721 number can go down. Oh, well, you get some of this benefit or some of that benefit. Someone lets you live in their house for free. We're going to count that as sort of income in kind, and it might go down from 721, but it's 721.
Okay,
The
but I'm
other-
talking
the
about
other
somebody-
benefit,
yeah,
the
disability.
DIB benefit, it depends on how much you worked and how much you paid in taxes. There are some people who have worked their whole lives at pretty good wages. I was looking at an award letter today for a client of our office who worked in, I think, one of the mines up on the range. His disability benefit is over $2,300 a month. It's one of the highest ones I've ever seen. There are other people real sporadic working, minimum wage, real low wages. Sometimes they go a couple of years without working at all. I've seen those rates as low as $200 a month. So it depends on how much you earned and how much you paid in Social Security taxes.
So it's a complicated formula.
And I don't even know how it's calculated.
Okay, we got some questions in already. One is, on disability for 9 years, at 66, got a letter saying no longer eligible for disability. Is that correct?
Yes and no. What Social Security does is they change the label. So what Social Security disability benefits is your full retirement benefit early. So this person is no longer going to get Social Security disability benefits. They're going to get Social Security retirement benefits. It's the same amount of money. It's not going to change.
Another question, a little bit related. How come some people get back pay on Social Security?
Well, it depends again. When you apply for Social Security, a date will be established as the alleged onset date. Now, under some circumstances, that date will change. For example, I had a couple of hearings about a month ago where the judge wanted to grant the claim, but with an amended onset date, and that date can be the date on which someone has a surgery for the disabling condition, or the date of an MRI or some other objective test that really makes it easy for the judge to latch onto that date. If you don't, if the onset date is within 5 months of the point at which you get on benefits, you won't get any back pay.
Here's another related thing to something we were talking about, and that's this. Is there a certain amount of time you have to work to collect Social Security disability?
Well, that goes to those DIB benefits, and that's only for DIB, not SSI. And for DIB benefits, you have to have, as Stephanie talked about the onset date, the date you became disabled, the Social Security Administration will look back 10 years, which they divide each year into a quarter, a 3-month time frame. So 10 years is 40 quarters. And you have to have worked and paid Social Security taxes in at least 20 of those 40 quarters. If you have that, then you have enough credits earned to establish entitlement to disability benefits.
So let's say you had 40 years of gigantic earnings and then 12 years of not working at all. Could you qualify?
Only if you became disabled in the first 5 of those 12 years.
Really? Huh?
So, and every once in a while that happens where somebody will say, oh, I should have applied for Social Security 10 years ago. And it's a harder claim because you got to find all that old medical evidence that may have been destroyed, but it can be done.
Let's try and go very fast on some of these.
Okay.
Autism, child eligible for SSI?
That depends. I've handled a couple of those cases. It's going to depend on what kind of testing is out there, the degree of autism, the problems the child has functioning, things like that.
What happens, a wife gets extra money for Social Security if the husband's collecting on Social Security disability? Does that happen?
No, not necessarily. A spouse can collect money on the earnings of another spouse under certain circumstances. It depends upon whether they're still married, so divorce matters. It depends on whether the working spouse, the high wage earner spouse, is still alive. So widowers can collect money. So it's very complicated. It's just not like an automatic thing.
Okay. When you're denied, can you ask to see a doctor that they might provide?
Well, of course you can ask. They might not provide it.
That's called a consultative examination. Frequently they'll have an applicant see a psychologist at the request of the Social Security Administration. The point of that evaluation is largely to determine whether or not someone can handle their financial benefits on their own. But otherwise, you're generally stuck with your doctors.
PTSD, is that a kind of disability you can get Social Security disability for?
Well, much like the answer to the autism question, the answer is it depends. You can name a medical condition, and the answer is always going to be it depends, because there aren't no, well, I shouldn't say there are very few medical conditions just by the label alone mean you get benefits.
Well, and even if it's on this magical list of the compassionate allowance conditions, even then they can deny you if they don't agree that you have it as bad as you should have it to qualify. So,
okay.
It all depends.
What's a compassionate allowance?
There's a list of conditions that get updated periodically wherein The idea is that if someone has been diagnosed with this condition, they shouldn't have to go through all this rigmarole. They'll get granted pretty quick. As long as they turn in the right medical evidence, they should be granted. Having seen firsthand that it doesn't always work that way,
You get diagnosed with terminal cancer, and they say you got 9 months to
Right.
live.
Yeah.
You still have to wait the 5 months to get your money?
Hopefully not.
That's
But-
the point, is to avoid that. But
Oh, so there's no 5-month waiting period then?
right.
Oh, no, you still have a 5-month waiting
Well-
period.
Yeah.
The 5-month wait, but you might find out before the 5 months is up that you've been granted. But these
What-
compassionate allowances these are like
Really
one
hard.
in a million very bizarre and horrible medical conditions.
Wow, this poor guy was on Social Security. And it says owed $33,000. Social Security was taking $150 out per month to pay back, but now he has been cut off. What should he do now? How does he get back on? How does he finish paying the money back?
Well, he should reapply and maybe call a lawyer.
What about,
That's-
would they ever go after his paycheck or something, or?
Well, he probably doesn't have a paycheck. So Social Security can collect on an overpayment, usually from ongoing benefits. If someone doesn't have any other income or any other money, then they can't squeeze blood out of a turnip type stuff. When he gets to retirement age, they start deducting it out of retirement benefits.
Why would there be an overpayment? What would cause that?
If he was working a substantial gainful employment at any point during that time,
Get workers' comp?
maybe. If you make more than a certain amount of money every month, you're considered to be working substantial gainful employment, and that number changes. I believe this year it's 1,100 or thereabouts.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
And so if at some point you're on disability benefits, you can work part-time or certain hours as long as you're not making more than that magical amount. If at some point you go beyond that amount for any period of time, and it's kind of a gray area in that respect, you should call the Social Security office right away, talk to them about your job. They'll want to check in with you and keep an eye on you. If at some point they find out that you've been working all this time and getting your paycheck beyond this amount and getting Social Security, they're going to come back. They'll have access to your wage records, and for whatever period of time that you were getting disability benefits and also making more than the substantial gainful employment, they're going to want that money back.
Now, there are periods when you can make money and you're on Social Security if you're trying to get off Social Security?
Yeah, there's something called a trial work period for 9 months, and you want to get this approved by Social Security. But you're on disability, you try to get a job for 9 months, you can make as much money as you possibly can make, and you will still get Social Security.
And can you make some money? A woman's just asking about this, about going back to work.
Right.
Can you make some money and still stay on Social Security
Yes.
disability?
And then forgetting about the trial work period for a second, as Stephanie said, you can make about $1,000, $1,100 a month, and that's before taxes. And if you do that, you can still maintain your right to Social Security. I tell people, try to keep it under 800.
Yeah, don't get close.
Yeah.
And different
Towing the
types-
line's a bad idea.
different types of income count in different ways. So if you're getting, say, VA benefits and you're working a little bit and you're getting something, I mean, it's better to just call and talk to the worker in the Social Security office and get it all straightened out before this alleged overpayment hits you.
Okay, let's say you had a denied workers' comp claim and you got Social Security for a while. Then you went to trial on your workers' comp claim and you won. Might that result in an overpayment of Social Security?
Sure, that can too, because Social Security has a rule that coordinates with workers' comp benefits. They have a rule that coordinates with VA benefits, and so if you get a big back pay lump sum of work comp, that can. And then there are certain legal mechanisms to try to make it not quite as bad, to spread out the money and things like that. So, but that can happen.
Let's go back to the Social Security hearing. Would you advise people to just go in and try their own case then?
No. No, it shouldn't be complicated, but it's just complicated enough and just big enough of a deal that you shouldn't roll the dice. And I think people a lot of times they want to go in and they want to get a fair shake and they want to tell their story and they trust that it's going to go well. The problem is I think a lot of times the case is won before hearing, first of all. Getting all of the evidence in there, getting the right evidence. making sure all the work information is up to date. And then when you go there that day, there's going to be any number of additional witnesses. There could be a vocational expert there who may not have the right idea about your work history. Sometimes there's a doctor participating either live or by video conference. And
Okay, so most people aren't very good at cross-examining doctors and vocational experts then?
Right.
well,
But-
and
Go ahead, Steph.
I was going to say, there's actually a limited amount of cross-examination that we do of the vocational experts and the doctors, but there are ways to poke at their opinions or to improve upon them, because the evidence that the judge is getting at hearing is going to be a significant part of what forms the basis for his or her opinion.
And as Steph said, the cases are almost always won and lost before the hearing ever takes place. And the real work that we do is the work that we do ahead of time by interviewing the client and really getting in-depth information and gathering it and getting it to the judge ahead of time.
Inherited money was on SSI, not disability. This is the welfare program. And they took taxes out of the money. Why are you not told?
I don't have an answer to that question, but if you are on SSI and you come into money through inheritance, because you were walking down the street and there was a bag of money laying there, whatever, you are no longer eligible for welfare, which means you're not eligible for SSI until you spend that money. Then you can get back on it.
We've got another question on this back pay thing, so let's just make it abundantly clear. You can go backwards a certain time from the application process?
Yeah, it's complicated, but I'll try to do the best I can. There's an application date, and there's an onset date that Steph's talked about a couple of times tonight. The onset date is the date you became disabled. Your benefits for DIB can start 5 months after the onset date. Your benefits can start up, and their back pay can go up to a year backwards in time from when you applied. So if you become disabled and you applied a year and 5 months after you became disabled, you can get all of your back pay back a year before you applied.
There are
I hope that makes sense. It's very
that was
confusing.
pretty good.
So some people, let's say something bad happens, you're disabled, you think you're going to get back to work,
And you don't apply.
and you fool around for 2 years. Then you apply. You can only go back 1 year.
Right.
So you've lost
7
7 months
months.
of benefits.
Right.
Which reminds me, you don't have to be permanently totally disabled to get on Social Security.
Yeah.
You just have to be disabled for 12 months. Yeah. So if you're going off work and you know it's going to be a while, but you're young and you think you're going to go back, just when in doubt, apply, I would say, because of this issue with the back pay.
So I think what you're talking about there is you have a horrible leg fracture with 4 surgeries in a year and a half. And then it all comes together within 2 years and you're back pretty functional, right?
Yeah, you can get Social Security for those couple of years.
A closed-end claim.
Yeah.
This person says they're on disability for 10 years, but they've been working part-time under the limit.
Yep.
And he says Social Security is constantly checking and hassling him. And he's wondering, can they keep hassling him?
Yes.
Yes. and you just have to look at it as, I'll put the positive spin on it. They're preventing you from having a huge back pay problem later on in life. So, that's a good thing.
Okay, how much does it cost to hire a lawyer? Now, we talked about a maximum rate case, $2,300 a month. If you started at age 57 to age 67, that's 10 years of benefits, so that's a $230,000 case if you won, paid out over time. How much does it cost for the lawyer?
We're capped at $6,000, a maximum of that per claim, and we take our fees out of the back pay. So if you only get $1,000 in back pay, we get 20% of that, 25% of that, up to $6,000. Sometimes you don't get any money. I've had a couple of those. And then you ideally start someone on monthly benefits as well. We don't get paid out of the ongoing benefits. We get paid out of the back pay up to $6,000, and then you're on your own until you need us again.
So let's say the disability started 2 years before, but the judge didn't go back 2 years. He started it 5 months before
I just had a decision
the
like
award.
that.
Happens very common.
Yep.
Very
yeah.
common.
So we
So
don't get paid, and we don't go after the claimants either. That's
Does
a
the
draw.
client thank you then?
Maybe. I haven't heard from him yet. So. That was an amended onset date.
Yeah.
So.
All right. This person says they're on a disability policy that they bought, that pays them so much for being disabled. And the disability policy says they have to apply for Social Security disability, but the disability policy people said, we will give you a free lawyer from Chicago. Is that a good idea?
In my opinion, no. If you want to win your Social Security claim, you want to hire a local lawyer, because the local lawyers know all the right clinics to write to. They're going to know that if you use Essentia Health, for example, that there's 5 different places to write to. And that's just a short example. I know we're, running out of time here, but that's basically, you want a local lawyer.
That's all the time we have tonight. Remember, you can watch our show again online at www.wdse.org or at www.duluthtriallawyers.com. And please join us next week when we'll talk about bankruptcy and foreclosures. I'd like to thank our panelists for their expertise this evening, and thank you for watching. I'm Bob Falsani. Good night.